Discuss about 5.4 Transportation in human beings. We learned about blood being a fluid connective tissue. Blood consists of a fluid medium called plasma in which the cells are suspended. Plasma transports food, carbon dioxide and nitrogenous wastes in dissolved form. Oxygen is carried by the red blood corpuscles. Many other substances like salts are also transported by the blood. We thus need a pumping organ to push blood around the body, a network of tubes to reach all the tissues, and a system in place to ensure that this network can be repaired if damaged. Aorta, vena cava from upper body, right atrium, vena cava from lower body, right ventricle, septum, dividing wall, left ventricle, left atrium, pulmonary veins, pulmonary arteries. Figure 5.10 Schematic sectional view of the human heart. Our pump, the heart. The heart is a muscular organ which is as big as our fist because both oxygen and carbon dioxide have to be transported by the blood. The heart has different chambers to prevent the oxygen-rich blood from mixing with the blood containing carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide-rich blood has to reach the lungs from the carbon dioxide to be removed, and the oxygenated blood from the lungs has to be brought back to the heart. This oxygen-rich blood is then pumped to the rest of the body. We can follow this process step by step. Oxygen-rich blood from the lungs comes to the thin-walled upper chamber of the heart on the left atrium. The left atrium relaxes when it is collecting this blood. It then contracts while the next chamber, the left ventricle, relaxes so that the blood is transferred to it. When the muscular left ventricle contracts in its turn, the blood is pumped out to the body. Deoxygenated blood comes from the body to the upper chamber on the right atrium as it relaxes as the right atrium. Contracts the corresponding lower chamber, the right ventricle dilates. This transfers blood to the right ventricle, which in turn pumps it to the lungs for oxygenation. Since ventricles have to pump blood into various organs, they have thicker muscular walls than the atria do. Valves ensure that blood does not flow backward when the atria or ventricle contract. Oxygen enters the blood in the lungs. The separation of the right side and the left side of the heart is useful to keep oxygenated and deoxygenated blood from mixing. Such separation allows a highly efficient supply of oxygen to the body. This is useful in animals that have high energy needs such as birds and mammals, which constantly use energy to maintain their body temperature. In animals that do not use energy for this purpose, the body temperature depends on the temperature in the environment. Such animals like amphibians or many reptiles have three-chambered hearts and tolerate some mixing of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood streams. Fishes, on the other hand, have only two chambers to their hearts, and the blood is pumped to the gills, is oxygenated there and passes directly pulmonary artery to lungs, vena cava, from body capillaries in body organs apart from the lungs, vein artery to body aorta, pulmonary vein from lungs capillaries. Chambers to their heart, and the blood is pumped to the gills, is oxygenated there and passes directly to the rest of the body. Thus blood goes only once through the heart in the face during one cycle of passes through the body. On the other hand, it goes through the heart twice during each cycle. In other vertebrates, this is known as double circulation. Schematic representation of transport and exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Blood pressure. The force that blood exerts against the wall of a vessel is called blood pressure. This pressure is much greater in arteries than in veins. The pressure of blood inside the artery during ventricular systole contraction is called systolic pressure, and pressure in artery during ventricular diastole relaxation is called diastolic pressure. The normal systolic pressure is about 120 mm of Hg and diastolic pressure is 80 mm of Hg. Blood pressure 120, 80, 120 systolic, 80 diastolic to be measured. Artery. Rubber cup inflated with air. Pressure in cup above 120, 120 artery closed. Pressure in cup below 120, 120 sounds are audible in stethoscope. Pressure in cup below 80, 80 sounds stop. More to know. Blood pressure is measured with an instrument called a sphygmomanometer. High blood pressure is also called hypertension and is caused by the constriction of arterioles, which results in increased resistance to blood flow. It can lead to the rupture of an artery and internal bleeding. The tube's blood vessels. Arteries are the vessels which carry blood away from the heart to various organs of the body. Since the blood emerges from the heart under high pressure, the arteries have thick elastic wall. Veins collect the blood from different organs and bring it back to the heart. They do not need thick walls because the blood is no longer under pressure. Instead, they have valves that ensure that the blood flows only in one direction. On reaching an organ or tissue, the artery divides into smaller and smaller vessels to bring the blood in contact with all the individual cells. The smallest vessels have walls which are one-celled thick and are called capillaries. Exchange of material between the blood and the surrounding cells takes place across this thin wall. The capillaries then join together to form veins that convey the blood away from the organ or tissues. Maintenance by platelets. What happens if this system of tubes develops a leak? Think about a situation when we are injured and start bleeding. Naturally, the loss of blood from the system has to be minimized. In addition, leakage would lead to a loss of pressure, which would reduce the efficiency of the pumping system. To avoid this, the blood has platelet cells which circulate around the body and plug these leaks by helping to clot the blood at these points of injury. Lymph. There is another type of fluid also involved in transportation. This is called lymph or tissue fluid. Through the pores present in the walls of capillaries, some amount of plasma proteins and blood cells escape into intercellular spaces in the tissues to form the tissue fluid or lymph. It is similar to the plasma of blood but colorless and contains less protein. Lymph drains into lymphatic capillaries from the intercellular spaces, which join to form larger lymph vessels that finally open into larger veins. Lymph carries digested and absorbed fat from intestine and drains excess fluid from extracellular space back into the blood. 5.4.2 Transportation in plants. We have discussed earlier how plants take in simple compounds such as CO2 and photosynthesize energy stored in their chlorophyll containing organs, namely leaves. The other kinds of raw material needed for building plant bodies will also have to be taken up separately. For example, for plants, the soil is the nearest and richest source of raw materials like nitrogen, phosphorus, and other minerals. The absorption of these substances therefore occurs through the part in contact with the soil, namely roots. If the distances between soil contacting organs and chlorophyll containing organs or small energy and raw materials can easily diffuse to all parts of the plant body, but if these distances between become large because of changes in plant body design, diffusion processes will not be sufficient to produce raw materials in leaves and energy in roots. A proper system of transportation is therefore essential in such situations. Energy needs differ between different body designs. Plants do not. Moths and plants' bodies have a large proportion of dead cells in many tissues. As a result, plants have low energy needs and can use relatively slow transport system. The distances over which transport system have to operate, however, can be very large in plants such as berry tall trees. Plant transport systems will move energy stored from leaves and raw materials from roots. These two pathways are constructed as independently organized conducting tubes. One, the xylem moves water and minerals obtained from the soil. The other, phloem, transports products of photosynthesis from the leaves where they are synthesized to other parts of the plant. We have studied the structure of these tissues in detail in class 9. Transport of water. Huh? In xylem tissues, vessels and tracheids of the root systems and leaves are interconnected to form an continuous system of water conducting interconnected to form a continuous system of water conducting channels reaching all parts of the plant. At the roots, cells in contact with the soil actually take up ions. This creates a difference in the concentration of these ions between the root and the soil water. Therefore, water moves into the root from the soil to eliminate this difference. This means that there is a steady movement of water into root xylem, creating a column of water that is steadily pushed upward. However, this pressure by itself is unlikely to be enough to move water over the heights that we commonly see in plants. Plants use another strategy to move water in the xylem upwards to the highest points of the plant body, provided that the plant has an adequate supply of water. The water which is lost through the stomata is replaced by water from the xylem vessels in the leaf. In fact, evaporation of water molecules from the cells of a leaf creates a suction which pulls water from the xylem cells of roots. The loss of water in the form of vapor from the aerial part of the plant is known as transpiration. Thus, transpiration helps in the absorption and upward movement of water and minerals dissolve in it from roots to the leaves. It also helps in temperature regulation. The effect of root pressure in transport of water is more important at night. During the day, when the stomata are open, the transpiration pool becomes the major drawing force in the movement of water in the xylem. Water vapor. Figure 5.12. Movement of water during transpiration in a tree. Transport of food and other substances. So far we have discussed the transport of water and minerals in plants. Now let us consider how the products of metabolic processes, particularly photosynthesis, are moved from leaves where they are formed to other parts of the plant. This transport of soluble products of photosynthesis is called translocation, and it occurs in the part of the vascular tissue known as phloem. Besides the products of photosynthesis, the phloem transport amino acids and other substances. These substances are especially delivered to the storage organ of fruits and seeds, and to growing organs. The translocation of food and other substances takes place in the sieve tubes with the help of adjacent companion cells both in upward and downward directions. Unlike transport in xylem, which can be largely explained by simple physical forces, the translocation in phloem is achieved by utilizing energy. Material like sucrose is transferred into phloem tissue using energy from ATP. This increases the osmotic pressure of the tissue, causing water to move into it. This pressure moves the material in the phloem to tissues which have less pressure. This allows the phloem to move material according to the plant's needs. For example, in the spring, sugar stored in root or stem tissue would be transported to the buds, which need